James, starting from 10 up to 1, what is your list?
Well, you know I can't go straight into my top 10, man. You know this. I told you about it. There was just too many good movies. 2023 is honestly one of the best years of movies since maybe 2016 that I can recall. Like, there is so much good stuff here. I was going through all the movies that came out this year, and I'm writing the ones down that I really enjoyed and that had a potential to make my list. I had 30 at the end of it. I'm not going to read all 30, of course, because we'd be here forever. But yeah, I have to mention some that didn't make my list because some of them feel brutal, and I feel like you're going to think that they're brutal. So I'm just going to mention some that didn't make it here. Barbie. I liked Barbie. I didn't love Barbie. It didn't enough to make the list. Any other year where it was a weak year, easily would have made it, I feel. Past Lives. Really respect and appreciate that movie, but just doesn't really have the momentum or, I guess, longevity in my mind to make it as well. John Wick Chapter 4. I would have loved it a lot more if it wasn't actually like meant to be that ending for John Wick. At the character itself, I thought his ending was rushed and undeserving and just kind of came out of nowhere. So I think that taints it a little bit, but still I loved it. Air, the one based on Michael Jordan and Nike. I like that movie a lot. I think it just has such a great 90s energy to it. Another one, Anyone But You. I feel like I had to mention it because, you know, I thought the first time I watched it, I'm like, I really enjoyed that. But I thought it might have been a fluke. And I had to watch it again because my girlfriend wanted to watch it, obviously. And I liked it a second time. So it's no fluke. It's actually a good movie. And the box office results are telling of that. The Hunger Games, The Battle of Songbirds and Snakes, it was in my least anticipated for last year. And it blew me away because I just had really low expectations. But I think it's genuinely a good movie. 3 tough ones here. These are the final ones. The Color Purple, I adore that movie, from the acting, the narrative, just every aspect about it. I really, really did love it. Just not enough to really make it into my top 10. Killers of the Flower Moon didn't make the top 10.
Oh.
Yeah, see, we get a little bit spicy, man. 3.5 hours. I thought about it long and hard. It was my last one to really consider to get into my top 10. And I'm like, I don't think I could ever watch Killers of the Flower Moon ever again. I had the best experience watching it one time. I appreciate the hell out of it. And it's really well made. But like the Oscars, I am snubbing it from my top 10. And then we go to American Fiction, being left out as well. I really love the movie. When I watched the movie, and I watched it very recently, I'm like, okay, well, damn, we got another movie that makes top 10. And then I wrote everything out. I'm like, it actually doesn't have room on here. But really well done. I love everything that the narrative does, especially. And the acting, of course, is great too. But yeah, man, I'm really curious to see any of those ones make your list. Any major surprises from those ones?
Killers.
Yeah.
I could see Barbie coming because, spoiler alert, it's not on my top 10. So I did see that coming. Yeah, I was quite surprised by Killers as well. I thought, at least the technical side of things will sneak in. But all the rest, I wasn't really surprised at. It's been, like you said, a very, very stupidly strong year, where I feel some of the movies from last year should have just been released this year to, you know.
to make up for it, yeah. But honestly, on any other given year where it's not that strong, 4 or 5 of these could have easily made the top 10.
Yeah. I will say 2 of your films in your honorable mentions are in my top 10.
Ooh. Okay. I'm excited. Let's go. I'm going to go through my top 10 now. All right. So, number 10, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Yeah. And look, I know anyone who's watching this right now, how is that better than Killers of the Flower Moon? It's not. It's not. These are my subjective favorites for 2023. And Nayan knows this because he was in the premiere in New Zealand with me for this one, Dungeons and Dragons. We just had a ton of fun with it. Like, genuinely funny comedy, really well done characters, and just a new world to really get absorbed into. Dungeons and Dragons is not the movie that you think is going to be great, but I actually thought it was really well done. I think it's endlessly rewatchable because I've seen it a couple of times and I loved it all the same as well. I would really love to go back to this world with these characters and obviously with the same directors and writers behind it too. I thought it was just, it was just so much fun, and there's so much funny scenes, and I don't know, it's just like a really, really enjoyable experience compared to some of the other movies on my list here, because some of them are not enjoyable, but they're just really, really moving. Dungeons and Dragons is more on the enjoyable side for me, so that's why it's made the list. It hurts, it kills to put it above some of the movies I left out, but you know, I got to go with what I really enjoyed at the end of the day. So number 9, we have Anatomy of a Fall. I had to include Anatomy of a Fall. This is a movie that has consistently grown on me ever since we watched it at the film festival, man. You know, we came out of it and we're like, damn, that was really well done. You know, the writing was good, the editing was good, but I think it lingered on a little bit too much and just kind of, you know, overstayed its welcome a bit. And then, you know, I kind of left it not overly, you know, optimistic about it, but as I thought more and more and more about the movie, I'm like, oh, wow, it was just so well done. I can't believe how much I was on my seat. I can't believe how much times I thought that I had known, you know, who was winning the trial and who had murdered the husband. I always thought that I had it, but the movie just, had really compelling ways of making me change, you know, my whole thinking during the movie. And when it's like that, it just makes it so much more of an experience than just, you know, watching a movie, because you have to really think and try and, you know, decide for yourself on who did it. And Anatomy of a Fall is up there with one of the best, you know, courtroom dramas that I think I've ever seen. So it definitely deserves a spot here. And we move on to number 8. Nayan will hate this one, but it is May December. Nayan would call this one boring, one he couldn't really get into, but he appreciates it a lot, and I appreciate it, and I was into it. It is just so good. It is deeply complex. The characters are so rich with history, and you just get, you know, kind of sucked into the I don't know what to call it, the controversial, the weird, the gross, disgusting story that is hidden beneath the narrative here. And then you find out it's based on something real, which makes it even worse, because it's, I don't know how to describe it, and I'm not going to describe it here, but as you slowly unravel the layers to what's going on, these characters just get way more, you know, complex, and it starts to reveal why they act or do things. It's just so well done. And when you have, you know, some of the best performances, like from Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore, and Charles Melton, yeah, it just makes it so much more compelling. And I left the movie just constantly thinking about this movie, just the characters and, you know, what it means and what it's trying to tell me, all that stuff. May December is truly one of those brilliantly written films. And I don't know if I'll forgive the Academy for not voting a single performance from that.
That was
Natalie Portman's never been better. Yeah, I know. And Charles Melton, come on.
That's a snub.
All right. Yeah, that is a snub. All right, number 7. You know I had to be on here. Anyone watching this? Nayan watching this? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I had to put it on. I mean, and, you know, there's obviously some biases here. But, you know, we've been involved with the Guardians since 2014. Right now, that's 10 years. But when we watched it, it would have been 9 years. And it's such a long journey. You follow these characters, and they've just had, you know, such, like, they've had very big character arcs and huge character development, far more than majority of the MCU characters. Like, we've come a long way with the Guardians characters, more so than most, say, outside the OG Avengers. They've probably been the most developed characters so far. So saying goodbye to them and seeing their stories wrap up and seeing kind of some of the harsh endings that James Gunn isn't afraid of doing, it's so emotional throughout it, and it's all on the back of going through, you know, Rocket Raccoon's ugly, backstory and just seeing him kind of overcome that trauma that is quite scary. James Gunn also gave us one of the best MCU villains that we've ever seen. He would be top 5, I would say. Really well done. MCU lost something when they lost James Gunn. He just continues to make magic in the MCU, and he's done it with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I really love this. I liked it a lot on the first time. I loved it on the second time watching it. Number 6 may surprise you, but we're going for it. I don't care what the critics say, because it's Elemental. Elemental is that good. I'm telling you, it is the best Pixar romance story since WALL-E. And I'm not going to say it's better than WALL-E. No, I'm not going that far, but it is damn near close. It is. I think it's really good. I honestly don't know what those critics were smoking, watching it, because it's really well done. It's just about the two characters blending in. It's a migrant story at the end of the day, and how they, interact. And I think it just hits the emotions. You just fall in love with the characters. You understand both of them completely, and just gives really compelling backstories to both. And it just absorbs you into a world that shouldn't make sense, but ultimately it does. And this isn't me telling Pixar to make another one. Honestly, stop with the sequels. But it's just a movie, an original movie by Pixar. Sure, it's based on something very similar to Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it's still original. And Pixar is at its best when it's original, and I'm sticking with that with Elemental. I really did love it. I've seen it twice, and it's just so good, and it's just so moving on both times. All right, we're getting to the final 5 now. I don't know where Nayan, I don't know what you think, where I'm going with these last 5. Killers Removed. Oh, could be anything.
I think I know at least 3. I definitely know 2. I think I know 3 and 4 off your top 5.
All right, let's see then. Number 5 is Poor Things. I didn't expect to have this one so high. Me and Yorgos Lanthimos haven't always gelled in terms of personal preference. He did The Favourite, and I wasn't so high about The Favourite. Something about that movie just never worked with me. But the one thing that does work with me from Yorgos is Poor Things. Trying to explain this plot to someone is just one of the hardest things to do, and seeing the reactions is just hilarious to watch. Because I did it recently, and they're like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" The infant baby of a mother who committed suicide, and that the infant baby's mind goes into the mother's body. It's just the weirdest concept. But the reason why I love it so much is Emma Stone. Emma Stone, she gave the performance of the decade so far to me. I don't think I've seen a performance better than this since 2020. And sure, COVID's been around, so we haven't seen as much, but still, I think it's perfectly valid. Emma Stone has given the performance of her career and of the decade so far. So that makes it completely enjoyable just to see that character go from, the mind of a baby, the inexperience, and just to mature in a finite amount of time, backed with, really great supporting cast performances, Willem Dafoe, Mark Ruffalo, and just I think what it says about the female experience, the female sexuality. I think it's just just a really well done movie, and just has so much to say as well. And if you really dig deep and think about this movie, there's a lot of layers to it, and it's obviously backed by excellent technical production on almost every kind of aspect I can think of when it comes to filmmaking. All right, now we get into the final 4. So number 4, I have The Holdovers, one of the most wholesome movies I have ever seen. Holdovers is just a delight. It introduced me to Dominic Sessa. I love him. I hope he is in more movies. I think I heard that he got cast in something else recently.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah. A movie that I'm quite excited for, but I've forgotten it for some reason. But he was great. I'm glad that this movie introduced him, and he is here because he was really good. And then Paul Giamatti, I've never really known Paul Giamatti to be a great actor. I just haven't seen those films that he's done, and so I'm glad The Holdovers was my first experience to see Paul Giamatti be in a role where it's just like, holy shit, you're so good. But it's just such a real movie. I was watching it, I'm like, I just feel like I'm getting a glimpse into real people's lives, and I think that's so hard to do as movies. Just making us, putting us in the shoes of other characters is really hard to do. But The Holdovers is one of the most authentic movies of the year when you're getting into that human experience. And, what they're going through is really not that big as to what, me or Nan really go through in life. It's pretty much the same. But you feel it all the more because it's so authentic to the characters and you're just completely immersed in it. And obviously it builds up to, such a kind of a tearjerker ending there. It pulls at the heartstrings, but incredibly wholesome. A great Christmas movie. I really loved it, and I've loved it the first time I saw it, and I just continue to love it in my mind as well. All right, final three now. Nan probably knows the last three on my list. So number 3, I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, a movie that I definitely called from at the start of the year. I was losing my shit at the start of the year. I was, oh my God, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Greatest animated movie ever. I wasn't that extreme, but I loved it. And Nan loved it as well. Just the experience of watching that final half an hour. You can feel your heart beating, what's going on, and the cliffhanger. Oh, it just all works so well. One of the things I said when Across the Spider-Verse came out, and it hasn't changed now, is I don't think I've seen animated filmmaking done on this level. And I'm talking narratively. Seeing, a part 1 and part 2 story through animating. This feels like a blockbuster that, is part of this huge cinematic universe. And it is at the end of the day. But it's kind of like the Infinity War ending where it's like, holy shit, I need to see what's going on. I don't think I've ever seen, something just cut like that in an animated movie, and just the scope and the scale of what these characters are going through, what the implications are, and how authentic it makes it, and also how it ties those, complications to those main characters, and the thematics of the movie just woven so, intricately through everything that's going on. I think it just does so well. And beyond that, it continues to try and change the game with animation, just keeps upping it up a notch as well, and then it's backed by a really great score that's so engaging. It's funny. It's kind of everything you want in a movie. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I loved it. It deserves number 3 spot. Number 2, I am going the Iron Claw. I debated a little bit with this one, whether it should take number 1 spot, but it gets number 2. The Iron Claw is a movie that I just fell in love with basically halfway through the movie. And then I got real sad and depressed in the last half. But that first half of the movie, just the vibes, the way it captures these characters, just the setting. I think it just does such a good job of just bringing you into the movie and you get absorbed. And then the last half of the movie, it's like, oh, you thought you were having fun? Well, here's a load of depression for you. But the Iron Claw does such a good job. It gave us the best Zac Efron performance we've ever seen. Jeremy Allen White, Harris Dickinson, those three there, they felt like brothers throughout it. This movie kind of hit me at the right time because I think it's all about, brothership and male friendships and stuff. So it just went really deeply into it, and how, we kind of, take on those friendships. It just resonated really with the whole just a lot. So that's why it's so high on it. And, obviously if you've seen it, I'm not going to give too much spoilers away here. Despite the fact that if you're watching, you probably should have seen it already. But yeah, it's really well done. And the ending is completely deserved and heartbreaking. It's just a movie that I fell in love with beyond the other things in this list that I've given right now. It's just one of those special movies to me, so that's why it's number 2 for me. And number 1, could you deny? It's The Flash. Psych! No, it is Oppenheimer. No, of course not. I would never do that. Oppenheimer is obviously number 1. Oppenheimer, Have I run out of words to say about Oppenheimer? Do I need to say anything? It just won Best Picture and Best Director and Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, all that stuff. It swept the gold. Oh, not swept the gold, but it did sweep the Golden Globes. It also swept the Oscars as well. It's Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. It's not my favorite movie of Christopher Nolan's, but it's so high up there. Incredibly tough to rank his movies at this point in his career. It's just the perfect blend of what he does. It's so nice and refreshing to see Christopher Nolan tackle a movie like this. Usually what we get from Christopher Nolan is those really grand, huge scale, larger than life sci-fis where they're going different planets, or they're going into dreams, or reversing time, all this crazy science fiction concepts coming to the big screen. But with Oppenheimer, what do we just get a basic World War II movie, and he covers it in a tremendous amount of dialogue, black and white scenes. It's just done so well, and he makes it completely engaging. It's like he brings in the independent, artsy kind of films and brings it into the blockbuster territory, and you just get that perfect merge. And I think Oppenheimer is a really good analogy for mixing that kind of form of filmmaking in with the blockbuster side, and it just delivers. And when you see it on IMAX, it's just it's a complete experience, just from the narrative, from the technical side of it. I love Oppenheimer a lot, so much that I've had on 4K Steelbook. So before it was sold out as well, so I'm glad about that. But that is my top 10 of 2023. Nain, thoughts, feelings, surprises, expected rankings there? What do you think?
Your top 3 was definitely not a surprise. I saw that coming from a mile away.
Well, you've been in every premiere and screening we've gone to for these, so you know. So it's cheating.
I was a bit surprised about Guardians. I thought they'll be a bit more higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I know that you were a big advocate for Guardians 3. I think you had it quite high for your most anticipated as well.
I did, yeah.
So I thought that would have been a bit more higher up there. I knew May December was going to be in there. I didn't know where it was, but I knew it was going to feature.
It deserves it, all right?
Yeah. I was a bit surprised about Anatomy of a Fall, how that snuck in there. Elemental was a big surprise. Not expecting that at all.
Yeah, and number 6, bro. I hear the Guardians. I was looking at those two, and I'm like, oh, which one do I do? And I'm like, whenever I think of Elemental, I only think of really, really good things. I really did love it. So cheeky surprise.
Yeah, so I think those two were actually my biggest surprises, was Guardians being that low and Elemental just being there. And the fact that you just mentioned now that it was above Guardians is just like, what?
Yeah, no, it is a surprising one. I know that me and you both liked it a lot more than what we were hearing about it when we saw it at the time. But yeah, man, I'm a sucker for romance movies when they're done right. When they reel me in, bro, if they get me emotional, they give me the feels, I'm gonna love it. Hence, Anyone But You, bro. That was considered to be on this list. How ridiculous is that, right?
It is.
Okay. So if you had to give my list a letter grading, A is best, F is bad, what would you give it? Based on your own subjective opinion.
Oh, good, my own subjective opinion. And F, because
or try to be objective.
F, because May December's there.
No, it's a good movie.
I'll give it an A.
People got to back me up in the comments.
I'll give it an A. It was
an A. Whew.
It was quite expected of you. I sort of knew you liked every single one of those films. There were just a few surprises in there, Elemental, that I wasn't expecting. But other than that, I was expecting a lot of your, at least 8 or 9 of your movies on your top 10 to feature.
Dungeons and Dragons. Do you think that would make it in the end?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, interesting.